What's up, YouTube? I'm back. Did I ever leave? Question for the ages. I meant to do some shit video-wise sooner. I got sick. Shit happens. The holidays happened. Other things besides the holidays happened. Work happened. Life happened. Nonsense happened. What's happening? Happy holidays, if you're inclined to celebrate. Those are past. Happy New Year, maybe? Could it be fucked New Year? Maybe. 2026. Encroaching. It is the first day of the first month. End of, anyway. It was a day. I had to work. Here we are. Now, this is a video I've been, it's been on my mind for a while. Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. Whenever Metallurgy, I mean, you'll know from the title, you're all smart people, mostly. This is a response to Heavy Metallurgy's review video, their live stream, their album club review of this record right here. Oh, shit. The Accused. Return of Martha Splatterhead. Man, this record means a lot to me. This band means a lot to me. In all incarnations, whether we're talking about The Accused, Toe Tag, The Accused AD. We'll talk about those two a bit later on in the video. This album was introduced to me by a dear friend who, still a dear friend, long time ago. Back when Eric, just listened to a lot of punk rock, had not really ventured forth into waters outside of, smirky, snarky, sardonic, immature punk rock, hardcore. And by hardcore, I mean like, JFA, Ill Repute, Dead Kennedys, Black Flag. The list goes on. We've been down that path before. I'm not going to retread old waters like that. But the point is that I not yet dipped toes into waters much outside of said envelope, said umbrella, said pocket, what have you. Anyway, a friend of mine who had an older brother. I didn't have an older brother. I had an older brother into punk rock, metal, by metal, crossover, thrash, that kind of thing. Early death metal. Probably one of the main reasons why I really did start getting into more abrasive and not less punk, but more metallic sounds in the early 90s. I don't even remember, man. The years go by, and it's hard to recall where we were unless we have things eulogized. That's actually, maybe that's apt. I don't know. Written in text somewhere for posterity. I don't have a lot of pictures or a lot of evidence of me in my youth. Which is all just to say, I don't remember how fucking long ago this was, but it's a really good friend of mine. His older brother turned him on to a lot of cool shit. That's one of the records right there. We're not talking about this one today. It might come up, just conversationally. Anyway, he introduced me to The Accused from Seattle, Washington. Hey, I'm from Seattle, Washington. A very liberal city in the Pacific Northwest. And man, honestly, I don't really know what to think of it. It kind of threw me for a loop. It was cartoonish, which I really appreciated. It was fun. It didn't have a super serious tone, but it was also a little bit, I don't want to say it creeped me out, but like, there were elements that were definitely a bit more, I don't want to say brash either. Maybe a bit more toxic than some of the topics that came up in the realm of the music that I was listening to previously. gory, shall we say. A lot of horror elements to this album. That was a draw. I really liked horror movies. Killer. Anyway, Album Club, discuss this record. This is my original subcore pressing on Combat of this album 2 to 3 weeks back. And, they gave it, I don't know, what was it? Those episodes kind of average about like 2 hours, give or take an hour and a half to 2 hours. So they went in pretty at length talking about this. Marty loves it. Everybody seemed to be in favor of this record. There were some should we say negative? I don't know if negative is the right word, but maybe condescending mentions of like punk during that conversation. I get it. Album Club's not a bunch of punks talking about records, a bunch of metal dudes, and in this case it was a bunch of metal dudes talking about a record that has punk elements. One of the things that stuck with me during that review was Logan talking about how he was trying to listen to stuff that was similar, and so he reached for Wehrmacht's Biermacht record. That's the wrong pull, man. Yeah, that's a clean record. That's the clean Wehrmacht record. The Wehrmacht record you should have reached for, Shark Attack. Now, I don't want to say this sounds really like Martha Splatterhead. It doesn't. It's maybe got a similar vibe, just in terms of imagery, subject matter. I mean, there's some horror, there's some party stuff, there's just some like snarky, punky, crossover-y vibes on this. This is not a clean sounding record. This record sounds dirty as fuck. My preferred of the first two Wehrmacht albums. Biermacht's, it's good, but this is where it's at. This is the only Wehrmacht I need. Again, it's kind of a reach. Y'all should have done homework, man. And maybe I'm taking it a little bit personally as a native of the area and somebody who came up where this was an important element of my coming into adulthood and finding music and latching onto music and identifying with music, and music helping pave the way for how I thought about the world and how I behaved, whether it was, maturely or not. That's for another discussion. Anyway, I pulled this just to have it out. Now, if we were looking at other bands of the era, we could also say not from the area that we might compare that to. We could also pull Taco of Death. Or Extra Hot Sauce Taco of Death. Excuse me, Extra Hot Sauce. Dan Lilker. This is I should say Wehrmacht. They're from Portland. They were involved somewhat in the whole Pacific Northwest scene at the time that Accused came from. We'll get into that. These guys, New York, I believe. Peaceful Records put this out way back when. This is an OG. It's a rad record. It's in the same vein as that Wehrmacht, or like Spastic Blur is probably actually a better comparison for these guys, but also I guess you could go say like Intense Degree, Ripcord, Heresy, that kind of shit. But probably like imagine the goofy antics of Spastic Blur mixed with like the crunch and just like pummeling of Ripcord. And it's Extra Hot Sauce. Pretty good. Taco of Death. Not a bad record. Peaceville just reissued this on CD not too long ago. But I don't think OGs are super expensive. I shouldn't say super hard to find, but super expensive. Now, here's another one that we could talk about. California had its fair share of bands doing similar shit. RKL, Rich Kids on LSD, Rock and Roll Nightmare. This is probably one of my favorite records to pull if I'm listening to The Accused, especially the early shit, because, I don't want to say that musically they sound similar, but like, I mean, imagery-wise, sure, cartoonish, a lot of horror elements. Oh, look at those guys. The thing that kind of set RKL apart from a lot of the other California hardcore bands at the time, this was released by Alchemy back in like, I don't know, 86, 87. This is an OG as well. It has the comic book along with it. The thing that this band has in common with The Accused is the songwriting chops. Now, The Accused were deceptive in that they presented themselves like a shitty, sloppy punk slash thrash slash crossover band. The difference being that they could actually fucking play, man. They fucking raged. Tommy could write a killer guitar line, and everybody else could keep up. Blaine, his vocals were one of a kind, unique in the scene. Just like with RKL. Totally unique vocals. Guitar playing, stellar. Like this, the guitar could be, I don't want to say he's a virtuoso, but for the scene that they came from, like that dude could have taught school. Legitimately, just killer record, man. Just so tight, so on point, and just in terms of the mood and the vibe that this record evokes, yeah, super similar. But again, they're not really related. We're talking about some regional shit today, fellas. Regional. Love my regional shit. It's RKL. We'll talk about one more California band that we could have pulled to talk about, comparisons, similarities to The Accused. This was from 1986, Pussmort Records, Attitude Adjustment, American Paranoia. Man, savage, harsh, psychotic, hyperactive. Andy Anderson, if ever a frontman had the energy to match Blaine's, him, for sure. This album's killer. It's metallic, yes. It's punky, yes. It's hardcore, yes. It's just snide fucking subject matter. You got horror elements here. You got political paranoia here. You got everything that makes a good crossover record great. And, that's what I think of when I think about Martha Splatterhead by The Accused. 1986 on that one, by the way. But if you watch the Metallurgy review. So this isn't so much of a response to how they reviewed it. What they said about the record itself, more or less, I agree with. At least with the favorable points. Now, when I said they should have done their homework, this is a little jab. We had such a fucking rad scene in the mid 80s to the late 80s into the 90s, late 90s into the 2000s. We still have a fucking rad scene out here in the Seattle area. And what was so rad about the scene back then is that it was so widespread. Our scene went from fucking Portland all the way up to Vancouver, British Columbia, up in Canada, BC, Vancouver, even bands in like Calgary. Fucking Beyond Possession is Beyond Possession right there. That shit, they toured the West Coast extensively, like killer. And they played with a lot of these guys in one facet or another. We're all kind of involved in that whole era of music where stuff wasn't easily pigeonholed to either punk rock or hardcore or metal. It was a little bit of all of those things. An early example of that from Seattle, and this is one, it's funny, I was talking to a metal theologian about this one not too long ago. This is one that I think a lot of people see. They see the song titles and they think, oh, that's going to be goofy. And I'm talking about one of the most legendary Seattle records of all time. Covens, Blessed is a Black. First of all, the cover art's stellar. I just love that. Released on Everrat. Will be an ongoing theme today. The guys look like hashers. Let's face it, they look like they should drive like fucking Z28s. They'll probably have had mustaches at some point. He's got a mustache here, and the Mickey Mouse shirt. Blessed is Black, 6669, Burn the Cross, Rock This Church, Iron Dick, McDonald Land Massacre. The songs on here are super well written. They're catchy, they're fun, they're often dark, often burgeoning on, you know, blasphemous, horror type shock rock, nearly. And it's one of those albums that has its foot placed in several streams at the same time. You've got elements of punk on this album. You got obvious elements of thrash on this. I don't want to say crossover, because it never comes off as a crossover record, but you can hear the punk rock on this album, and you can hear the thrash. And because of the production, and I think the area from which it came, like, they were trying to do this thing where they were catering probably to both groups. I mean, a lot of those people, a lot of those kids back then were going, you know, they were going to the punk show one night, and then they were going to the metal show the other night. And they think, you know, in equal parts fucking Slayer, Metallica, and DRI, and fucking Discharge, and whoever else. This album's no different, and it's legendary, and you should all listen to it, because it's killer. It is kind of goofy, but it's fucking no goofier than a new wave of British heavy man called Bashful. I mean, or Randy. Let's be real. If you've got a Randy record, and you think that record looks goofy, you can go, you know where to go. I'm not talking to you, Aaron. Don't take that personally. I should also mention that part of the reason this kind of occurred to me, and I wish I had done this before the new year, because 2025 marked the 35th birthday of this record right here, also by The Accused, Grinning Like an Undertaker. So that's another kind of one of the other impetus in filming this response video to the Heavy Metallurgy folks, at least the album club folks. What else do we have here? 1988. This is also another release from Everett, Medusa Records. Mace. This album rules. The Evil and Good. Again, like I said, 1988 this came out. These guys were from Everett, Washington. Everett was a place when I was a kid that, you know, was kind of generally chuckled about. People didn't really go to Everett. It wasn't the nicest. It wasn't the nicest neighborhood compared to Seattle. Everett was wild. It was like the Wild West. Dirty, gross, scuzzy. And there were a lot of dirty, gross, scuzzy areas in Seattle too, but Everett was like trashy. Now I kind of bask in that shit. Everett's rad. Anyway, huge J card on this. This Mace record, it's their second album. They had an album before this, which leaned a lot more into punk rock. This album's still, like, you listen to this and you're like, okay, is this a metal record or is this a punk rock record? Is it a crossover record? It's like all three of those things. It's rad. And tonally, vibe-wise, this is right on the mark. Martha Splatterhead. If I'm going to pull out Martha Splatterhead, this Mace record's coming out for sure. Because this is what I want to listen to, like, probably right afterwards. It's rad. It's just so well put together. There's a couple goofy tracks on here, like Daddy's Girl or Blonde Obsession. But overall, it's just super evocative of like a post-apocalypse in which, you know, you picture people dressed up like Mad Max characters, so like cartoons almost. And what was crossover punk and thrash back in the 80s other than cartoons of reality? Anyway, this Mace record absolutely belongs in your collection if you have an appreciation for that Accused record. Vinyl's hard to find on this guy right here. Cassettes, I think, also kind of hard to find at this point. I love this album. It's killer. Regional pride right here. Everett represent. Fuck yeah. What do we want to talk about next? That was 88, written in 86. Got a couple more offerings from 88. Fuck, let's veer the other way altogether. This isn't a metal record at all. Pure punk as fuck shit. Gestures of Chaos. This album is killer. I think they put out like 2 EPs. This is an original. Came with this sticker to boycott GE. I remember seeing these all over the place. Gestures of Chaos, I want to say, were from Tacoma, Washington. Got a booklet here. And, you know, lyrics, etc., etc. Artwork of the time, man. Gestures of Chaos were rad. They were just straight ahead fucking punk rock. On occasion, they sounded a little thrashy. They kind of like if you were to imagine a Washington State version of like UK metal punk shit, like say English Dogs, or like and I mean like early English Dogs, like Mad Punks and English Dogs, or like the fucking Trips of Tomorrow era Exploited. Imagine that, just kind of fast forward, add a few years of experience on top of that, and you got the sound of Gestures of Chaos. Shit's rad. I didn't find out until recently that homie of mine did that cover art way back in the day. A bit older than me. I worked with him at Scarecrow Video way back when. Folks will know who he is. I'm not going to drop his name on the video because he probably doesn't watch this shit, but I'm sure he doesn't want his name. And if you have the record, you can fucking read the credits and figure it out. Anyway, these guys, all the time, seen at shows, like, dude, those guys were everywhere. You just recognize them all. Even years later, into the 90s, like, especially dude here. I remember him vividly from shows back in the day when I was young. They were always on, you'd see them on bills with The Accused, Christ on a Crutch, etc., etc. And you know what? I just realized I forgot to pull Christ on a Crutch record. That's okay, because I still got a good bevy of shit here to talk about that's pertinent. Anyway, the next thing we're going to talk about, I don't know, another tape. It's another one on Medusa / Everrat. And I believe these guys were from Edmonds, Washington, which is more or less Seattle. If you're from Edmonds and you're out of town and somebody asks where you're from, you just say Seattle. Much like many areas around Seattle, it's just easier. That would be SGM with Aggression. Now, sonically, if any of these bands has any sort of similarity to The Accused, especially that record, it's probably this band right here. The music is like this wild hybrid of thrash and punk and like that weird garagey, grungy sort of like almost like doomy, spooky metal that a lot of like the Seattle grunge bands early on were kind of doing at the same time. So think like really early Mudhoney, or like the next band that we're going to talk about. Anyway, this is an unhinged piece of music, especially the vocals. And I know that's the selling point for a lot of people with The Accused, or Blaine's vocals being absolutely off the rails. Same here. Dude's off the chain. He sounds nuts. And this is another great album. It's got some goofy tracks. Again, like, there's a track on here called Blowjob. I mean, come on. Do Me Till I Die. So yeah, there's some immaturity here. But that's true of all of these records. And if you're a metalhead or a metal fan or a punk fan, it's true of probably a lot of records in your collection as well. Musically, it's tight. Super tight. Production-wise, killer. Jack and Dino did it. I think he recorded and produced this album. And he's got a very distinct sound. Like Jack and Dino is like Seattle's like Butch Vig. I don't want to say Steve Albini, but he was like Seattle's Butch Vig for a while. Jack and Dino was like the guy to go to. And this album is rad. I would love to upgrade this to a vinyl copy. You've got the Robert Williams artwork there on the front. Hard to see because it's small, but it's cool. I swear. Now, speaking of Jack Endino, it's another band that doesn't necessarily musically evoke what you get with The Accused, but it evokes the same vibe, for me anyway, because it's kind of creepy. Kind of plays with horror themes a lot. But what we have here is pop punk? Coffin Break, their album Rupture. It's another, I believe, Jack Endino, maybe. Yeah, recorded by Jack Endino at Reciprocal Recording Studio. That was a Seattle recording studio, by the way. CZ Records put this out. Coffin Break ended up getting signed to like Epitaph. The album that came after this is really good too. That was like the first Epitaph Records release that they put out. And then after that, they got kind of just like, it's another Coffin Break record. Not terrible, but it's not the best thing ever. This record is just rad. It's super like, it's pretty immature. But like also kind of has a lot of maturity too. Just in terms of the songwriting, some really, really good punk rock on here. I don't want to say it rivals like Propagandi's first record. But I would definitely put it up there with like the Chemical People or fucking shit of that ilk as well. That was another CZ band. CZ bands tended to have like a distinct sort of sound. But then you got stuff like Kill the President, which, you know, it's about what it sounds like. You have Diane, which is a great ballad about murdering somebody named Diane. Tuesday, Thursday Man, Nursing Home Child, Drip, Quiet Earth, Vision of Never. This album's awesome. It's really fucking good. Criminally overlooked, in my opinion. I don't think there's a lyric sheet in here or anything, so we're not going to pull that out. No big deal. Anyway, this Coffin Break record is rad. The album that came after it's also fucking great. I would say essential, no, unless you're into regional shit like I am. Then you might find interest in this album. But again, like I said, just tonally, it has that vibe, that same like horror, like almost like nasty, like video nasty sort of aura that all the Accused shit did leading up to that point. This was 1989? 1990, excuse me, 1990 on this guy. Killer album. Absolutely recommended. And now, for something different from that. Completely, this is 90, I believe. 1990, maybe 91. I think 90, though. We got Subvert. I can't think of The Accused without thinking of Subvert. The one and only full-length album by Subvert. Subvert were also from either Tacoma or Federal Way. This was put out by Raging Records. I think a couple labels put this one out. A couple different versions. This is either like a repress that came out 1 year later. Anyway, just raging mix of hardcore and metal, man. It's awesome. Like if you're down or familiar with like Final Warning out of Portland, notoriously punk rock band that played the same show as King Diamond's first concert in North America, Portland, Oregon. What a show that would have been, man. Final Warning and King Diamond. Weird. But like that kind of sound where it's like so just like supercharged punk rock to the point where it's like just like distorted as fuck and just sounds like metal. And that's what you get with Subvert. You could compare them to like Crucifix, Dehumanization, one of the most essential, crucial punk rock records of all time. I would say this is one of the most crucial, essential punk rock records of all time, but I'd also say that it could fit perfectly well in a thrash metal section or in a crossover section if you subdivide your records as such. I know insert for this one. Very plain labels, but cool nonetheless. This features several folks, one of which was Mr. Eric Greenwalt, who would go on to form the band Christ Driver after relocating to Seattle proper. Christ Driver were awesome. I can't even count the amount of times I saw them. I never got around to seeing Subvert. They were gone before I started going to shows. Now, I did manage to see the Splatterhead tour of The Accused was like 92. It's one of my first shows in Seattle. Wild. Barely remember it. A lot of alcohol and drugs been consumed since then. Anyway, when talking about this record, that being The Accused, you can't not talk about Subvert. They played shows. They all knew each other. They all hung out. They were all at each other's gigs. That's the way it was with Seattle. Everybody supported everybody. Whether you were Hammerbox, Christ on a Crutch, The Accused, or Wormwood. Now, one more. Vibe-wise, again, this really isn't one that when I think of stuff like Martha Splatterhead or The Maddest Stories Ever Told or Grinning Like an Undertaker, I can't help but think of Skinyard, man. Fist-sized chunks. This is an absolute favorite of mine. It's another one. Well, it's Cruise Records, which I think Cruise owned CZ. This is a Jack and Dino project. He played guitar. It was his baby. This record also features Tommy from The Accused. He's playing guitar on 1 or 2 tracks on here. Helios Creed is on this record, man. This is a winding, unnerving delve into dark punk bordering on grungy metal with a lot of psychedelia. Like, that's just a cool fucking record. These guys were awesome. I saw them live as well, who knows how many times. They put out another really great record after this, 1000 Smiling Knuckles. There's the band live, just rad. I remember seeing bands like that at places like the King Cat Theater in Seattle, or Rock Candy, where I wasn't supposed to be because I was too young, but people let us in anyway. This stuff's rad. It has that fucking horrific, weird, creepy, twisted sort of vibe that you get with The Accused in spades. Skinyard maybe did it better on this record than even The Accused on some of their albums. Now, they lacked that razor-sharp thrashing attack that The Accused had. But, again, these were people that supported everybody in that scene. So, again, Skinyard shows, you'd always see Blaine. You always see Blaine at shows now, which is rad. Fucking local treasure, dude. Y'all need to listen to this album club. All these records, man. If you have any appreciation for that Accused record, you need to dive into this shit. And then, of course, we get to, like, the modern day stuff. Toe Tag. Marty showed this, too. I love that record cover. That's Blaine right there. Lyrics on the back. I love this. One of the things I love about this, you know, Toe Tag, but then you got the Seattle, Washington. So rad. Anyway, Toe Tag. If you like The Accused, you should like Toe Tag. That's really all I can say about them. It's like a continuation. Just stellar. Fucking sick, deranged metal punk. It's rad. More Toe Tag. Throat to Scrote. Rad. I'm not going to show this one either. I did forget to show one. This is kind of a joke. But this is a band that we would see constantly. They're from Portland. But they played Washington, especially Seattle, a lot. That'd be Sweaty Nipples. With the album Charged. This was put out by Megaforce, of all labels. 3-track cassette. Demon Juice was like the hit. And when they played that live, it was insane. But these were guys that were previously in Wehrmacht, Spastic Blur. Members would go on to be in bands as widespread as like Brothers of the Sonic Cloth, Burning Witch, among others, master musicians of Bukkake. So kind of local legends. Anyway, musically, not really at all similar to The Accused, but you know, they all know each other. And again, you go to a Sweaty Nipples show, you're going to see members of The Accused. You're going to see Blaine. You're going to see Eric from Christ Driver. You're going to see fucking dudes from SGM and Mace showing up. The old cadres at the time. We're talking like 93 when this came out. Anyway, it's kind of a joke. But in all seriousness, you should peep that metallurgy video. It's cool. I wanted to do this response. Hope you all enjoyed it. Hope you all found something that you weren't familiar with before that you can check out and be like, damn, that fucking does rule. Thanks for watching. Happy New Year. Hope it's not shitty for any of you. Just be good to yourselves. Be good to the people around you. Don't be assholes. See you later, YouTube.